for those of you who've joined us, thank you for joining us. My apologies that we're a bit late. Just trying to get Sakumzi on camera, and we hope that'll happen pretty soon. But just to kick off, this is the second in our series of discussions about hospitality and tourism. And just to introduce myself, my name is Laurice Taitz. I publish a city guide to Joburg called Johannesburg in Your Pocket, in print, and it's also a digital guide. And we're part of an international city guide series that actually started in Eastern Europe 20 years ago. For 6 years, we have been working on Johannesburg in Your Pocket. And through that time, we have connected very widely across the city with restaurants, hotels, tour guides. So really, that's given us quite a unique perspective on what makes up Johannesburg, what makes the city tick. And we also realize the environment's very fractured, and often people aren't connected to each other, and they don't have an opportunity to get access to information and to hear what they need to hear about the city. So what we do on a daily basis is we help visitors and locals navigate the city and its attractions. And I suppose in this new COVID-19 world, we're trying to help people navigate once again. And this time, I think the navigational equipment is a lot less certain. So we've always been about empowering information. We actually started sometime last year, we started a concierge group online to talk to concierges at different hotels. And this webinar series came out of that because as we've been chatting every week since the shutdown and since so many of the hotels are closed, there were more and more questions from the concierges. So we decided we'd go out and look for answers. Just to tell you, just some sort of protocol is if you'd like to put some questions in the Q&A, we'd love that. And we can handle them after all the speakers have had a chance to present. And if you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat and tell us who you are and why you came here, we'd also like to know that. So today we've got 3 restaurateurs joining us who are really part of the top table of Johannesburg restaurants. We've got co-owner and chef David Higgs of Marble and Saint in Rosebank and Sandton, Sakumzi Makabela of Sakumzi's in Soweto, and Saul Mervis of the Grill House and a number of other restaurants that he co-owns or owns. And we chose these businesses because their customers are a mix of locals, of international visitors, and a corporate audience, which means these are not businesses that can easily convert into takeaway joints. The situation is far more complex than that. The other thing about these businesses is that they each provide a very specific dining experience that isn't replicable. And another part of it is how much they actually touch upon the communities around them. Each of these businesses is an ecosystem that is quite complex and quite involved. And even just taking Sakumzi's, for example, on an earlier chat, Sakumzi mentioned that everyone from the entertainers on Vilakazi Street to the street vendors are there largely because Sakumzi's is there. So again, the risk to these restaurants, the risk to the restaurant is a risk to these restaurants not being open is a risk to a much broader community. So we're going to start off with David, who has kept everybody entertained through this lockdown, managed to keep everybody in very high spirits and everybody busy in the kitchen. But despite the levity of his performance on most days, my question to him is, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious what's on all our minds if you look at all 3 of our establishments, and it's exactly what you just said about Sakumzi, is that, you know, we first and foremost we are responsible for what happens within our restaurant, and I'm talking specifically about our team, and the overspill of that. You know, if you look at the Grill House in Rosebank and Marble in Rosebank, you know, these are core establishments in the area, and I know for a fact that you know how many people rely on us operating, starting with our team. So that's always, you know, that's our biggest challenge. You know, is how do we keep everybody employed? I mean, I think that's the bottom line. You know, like there's no doubt that there's going to be change over the next couple of months. Our biggest challenge is, and this is what we were talking about earlier, is that we don't know when we're opening. And Laurice, that's our biggest challenge, you know, is that, like, if we had some sort of end goal, if there was something that we were working towards, we would be able to do a certain amount of planning, and we can, you know, we can structure things accordingly. But you know, unfortunately, our hospitality industry have been let down in a number of ways. And let's start off with, you know, the hospitality industries, literally, I would say over 50% of our teams are foreigners, you know. So when I talk about foreigners, I don't even like using that word. I mean, they're from across our borders, they're our neighbors, they're fellow Africans, you know. And unfortunately, we've been let down in a number of ways, you know. UIF hasn't come to the party. They're starting to come to the party now, 2-3 months later. Insurance, fighting on every angle. It looks like we're only going to be able to open on level 1 in any sort of way. So everywhere we turn, you know, we blocked, and we don't know what the end point is. That's the difficulty of where we are at the moment. So you know, the result of that is that looking after the team, because they're not being looked after by a fund that they've contributed to, suppliers now become, you know, suppliers and landlords become affected, and the landlords are not willing to budge either, you know. So, like, without sounding negative, you know, we are extremely frustrated. I cannot tell you how a business that was running beautifully for the last couple of years, like, you know, from one day to the next, the taps are switched off, and everything that goes with it, which is obviously understandable. It's like that for a lot of industries. So, like, what are we doing? I mean, we're in constant meetings with UIF. We're applying all the time with UIF to make sure the team sorted out. We are in negotiations with our landlords to look after us in some way. That's going to have to change going forward, with lease agreements and so forth. And trying to restructure your business to what lies ahead for us. You know, we rely on a certain amount, and I know Saul, and I definitely know Sakunzi as well. We rely on a certain amount of international trade. Marble, especially when it comes to corporate trade, we rely a hell of a lot on corporate trade. And both restaurants, both Marble and Saint, our bars are quite key in our operations. So, I mean, everything that we offer and everything that we're doing at the moment is being questioned and you know, needs rethinking. Now, where do we go with this? And obviously, you know, the next thing that we faced with is this 50 people per restaurant nonsense. You know, like, it can't be 50 people per restaurant. We have to look at the size of the restaurant and how many people we allow to seat in those restaurants and so forth. So, you know, that needs addressing. So hopefully that won't come into play. Hopefully it will be common sense. Common sense will prevail there, you know, where we can, you know, per square meter you can have so many guests and or staff members or people in the space. So I don't think I've answered any of your questions other than giving you all the challenges. But be that as it may, we are looking at various options of opening and how we open, and, you know, staggered eating times and you know, that kind of thing, and screens, you know, all the normal stuff. But we're also having to look outside the restaurants. What else can we do to maybe create other little business hubs to within the same industry, but with a different structure. So it doesn't have to be, you know, restaurants. Our restaurants, and specifically, I can talk for myself. I can speak for Saul as well. We cook on fire in most of our restaurants, and a product that's cooked on fire doesn't travel well, you know. So we can't just open the doors to takeaways, you know. Like, everybody's saying, yeah, but, you know, you need to support your staff. Trust me, my friend, I'm doing whatever I can to support my staff. And so yeah, cooking on fire is not an option for takeaways, that's for sure. So I've kept myself busy, and I've tried to keep the restaurants within the sort of keep the talking points up and keep the names alive by just doing these demonstrations every day and doing little quirky things and although it looks like I'm not taking things seriously and messing around, through that we've raised for our team over R1 million already, which is indirectly through that the sales of the book. I do a lot of demonstrations for corporates, all our corporate clients from Marble. I do a lot of inspirational stuff for them. We do dems online and that kind of thing. So behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes on, but it's hard. Jeez, Laurice, it's hard. Not gonna lie.
No, very. As I was saying to you earlier, before we kind of opened the discussion, was also that in the beginning, when I thought of this topic, there were so many kind of glib questions and responses to how you open restaurants. And after reading so much about it, you just realize that, and listening to you all, of how complex this situation actually is, and is becoming more so as there is no deadline. I'm going to go on to Sakumzi, if you can unmute your microphone. Sakumzi was battling to join us with his camera.
Yes, Laurice.
Hi, Sakumzi, welcome.
Yes, as David was saying, it's the same sentiment. I can't repeat what he has just said because it's the same thing I will be saying all over again. For me,
a question for you then. A question for you is, what did it feel like to actually shut down, knowing that in essence, you actually shut down a whole street of Soweto by being closed?
When we were young, we grew up fighting. If someone must hit you on the third button of your shirt, he gets you off guard. This COVID-19 got us off guard. When someone punches you in your belly on the third button of you come down, you can't reason. So we've been shattered. On a quiet day, I see 200 people at Sakumzi. That's my quiet day, people eating. On a busy day, I've got 600 people that are eating. So now when I go back to my chef, my normal chef, we need to change the menu to be flexible for takeaways. There are things as Black people that were not accommodated by our own government. Black people don't drink. Black people don't go out on restaurants. I never grew up going to restaurants with my family. I cannot leave my house and tell my wife I'm going with my friends to a restaurant. I only tell my wife I'm going to Sakumzi's to drink one beer, just to have a chat with Nkosinati. I don't tell the truth. I tell my wife I'm going to the car wash. Hey, I ended up at Sakumzi. Nkosinati or Becky, these people corrupt me. So when I call my friend Nkosinati or Becky, I'm saying, let's go have one beer. Black people never tell a lie. We are just going to have a beer, one or two. So as now they've opened, as Black people are saying, we don't want liquor. We don't want to go and buy liquor. We want to go to the liquor. We want to go inside the liquor where they are selling liquor. We want to sit there. That's where we connect. That's where we get to talk about our challenges. But we are not used to say, let's go for a date in a restaurant and eat. People go to Sakumzi to have a drink one. Those people will be calling me, where are you? We've been at Sakumzi restaurant since 1, and now the time is 11 p.m. Where are you? We've been looking after your business. Those people are drunk already because they've been drinking, they had lunch, they had dinner. So when I look at the GAP system I'm using, I'm making more money on food, but people are attracted because they're going to drink 1 or 2. They end up drinking 20 beers if they're drinking beers or more, double shot. And they will be saying, we should have bought a bottle. But here I am again. If I was government, would I open restaurants? In Italy, what is the weather now? Maybe it's around 25 degrees, it's hot. That's why they can open. But if we were to open now, it's June, July, it's gonna be cold and more people are getting sick. So when I divide myself, I'm the government, I would say, let's shut down. But again, I've got children that are more than 110. All of them are saying, Sakumzi, we work for you for so many years. Can we have money for rent? Can we have money to buy food? All their hope is in me. While they are coming with their frustrations, the debit orders are going through. I'm also human. As I said, in direct jobs, it's all those 800 people working in Vilakazi Street. Another more than 200 jobs, it's all those tour guides. Sakumzi, we've been bringing tourists to your place. We never asked for any kickback. We are hungry. We don't have UIF. The tour operators are closed. The phone is closed. When we email them, there's no reply. Can't you give us something? So I don't know whether to take the call when it's ministers calling me. They want liquor, they want cigarettes. And if I were to sell to them, won't I be caught? So I'm just confused. That's where I am, and changing the menu now from a sit-down restaurant where it's a buffet to have it as a takeaway. Who will buy a beer for 30 rand at Sakumzi? I always tell my people that my beer at Sakumzi is 35 rands, but in Sentin it's 25. In Sentin, there are many restaurants. In Soweto, yes, there are 10, but there's more than 3 million people in Soweto alone. So I find myself in a corner. I've got children this side in my house. I've got debit orders. I've got a panel beating shop as well that I run. The landlord says, no, we'll give you a holiday, but you must know it's got interest, that holiday. So if I'm paying 200,000 with 15% interest rate, then it's not a holiday at all. But when I'm opened now, the dealerships are still closed. The parts are still in the harbor. So now I remember I should have been a good child. I should have listened. If I did go to school, maybe I would be withdrawing my investments. I wouldn't be having a headache of having calls left and right. For now, I'm still confused. I don't know what is right. And what I hate is the government is advertising UIF, is advertising tourism relief funds. So the staff are knocking on my doors, are phoning, WhatsApp. When are you gonna look after us? Because we can see on TV that there is money for UIF, there is money for tourism funds. So now it looks like I'm lying. Out of 110 people, they've been able to pay for 12. So who do you speak to in this government? What is a politician?
So you raise very difficult issues with no real answers for any of these. We're going to come back to some of this. I want to move on to Saul. And just to give a bit of background, Saul sent me some videos that he had made for his team, which I think already from the second week of lockdown, you had started dealing with these issues. And what interested me was how you kind of turned to your management team to also say, how is this affecting you personally? How is this affecting our restaurant? How is this affecting the industry? And there were such interesting insights that came from your team. And I want to know, managing through this experience, has this been very new to you to approach it in that way? Or is that a way you would have always have handled this kind of situation?
So Laurice, I think we try and be inclusive as much as we can, or have tried to be inclusive using management. I mean, they are at the forefront of our business. They do run our businesses for us. But it was particularly interesting, that exercise that I did. And yeah, we asked them questions ranging, there's a team, my management team is 28 people of varying levels. And we asked questions to do with how has the lockdown affected you personally, both positively and negatively, and how has it affected the industry as a whole, and how has it affected the grow house particularly. And then questions which were the most interesting were, what do you think that we used to do that we probably won't be doing going forward, and vice versa? And it was just, I was absolutely blown away at the responses that I got from my management. And, you know, we called them together afterwards and said to them, guys, if we can carry out or fulfill 50% of those promises that we have, and they look really deeply into the business, then we're in for a great future. And there were some very common themes that came through. The common themes had a lot to do with gratitude, with respecting their position in the business. It had a lot to do with teamwork and respecting each person and what they can offer. It had a lot to do with things like cost containment and how we are so quick to just throw cash at a problem. You know, there's a globe gone, phone the electrician, that type of thing, or not controlling your stock or rotation. And the truth is, the business was, it was for lack of a better word, you get complacent, and we were all a little bit greedy and a little bit lazy, and we've taken this time now as massive introspection into the very bowels of our business.
Oh, Saul, we've frozen you. I'm going to go back to, there is a question while we wait for Saul. His camera seems to have frozen. We're having a technology meltdown today. There's a question from David Wallstra from Third Space and Seam Coffee. And he asked, do you see restaurants pivoting towards dual spaces going forward? And David, I don't know if you want to handle that. He was saying he's seen a lot of that in the UK, so that it won't just be built for that single purpose, the space.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're just going to, David's just going to answer one question. Then
No,
we'll
no,
come
it's fine. I'll come back to that.
Let's
all finish.
Perfect.
I'll come back to
Saul?
Yeah, as I was saying, we will be the loss, but the positive, there is definitely positive in it, and one is that we will create stronger businesses. I think as restaurateurs, we're creating a strong front as well. We've notoriously been very maverick and precious about our secrets and competitive between each other, but I've seen a beautiful growing together of restaurateurs, restaurant minds and ideas. And the other big thing is that you can't replace what we offer by technology or online. So whereas a lot of retail shops are going to fall by the wayside because people are getting used to the online, the delivery, that type of thing, we touchy-feely. People will want to go out to restaurants. They will want to still celebrate with each other. They will want to see, but that's our nature. This will come and it will go. It's about how we manage ourselves and how we maintain ourselves, what we're doing. I've been putting my staff on courses, lots of food sanitation and handling online courses and that type of, and it's been actually as hard as it's been, and believe me, I'm not playing this down. You've heard everything that Dave and Sakumzi said has been 100% true, and I can reflect and magnify that. But it's also been a very interesting time. A lot of my staff have really stood up and been counted during this time, and we're trying to work on the positives as best as we can at this stage.
Yeah.
David, do you want to answer? Sorry, there was a question that came in. It was just talking about how to almost manage these spaces. Do you see the spaces shifting, that they will no longer be used for a single purpose as a restaurant?
Yeah, so
way forward for that.
I think the interesting thing with that is so, for instance, what I've been doing over the last 2-3 months is that I've started this sort of online and YouTube channel and everything else, and through obviously through doing demonstrations and all of this, there's a certain amount of revenue coming. That's all gone to our staff fund, as I said, and so. But it has been interesting because, generally speaking, and I'm sure Sakumzi and Saul will back me up on this. You know, that during the day and especially at lunch times, you know, restaurants at lunch now are not the restaurants that we used to be at lunch, you know, and especially from a corporate point of view, where the corporates used to come out for lunch and spend money. That doesn't happen anymore. You know, it doesn't happen for us, and it doesn't even happen on a Friday. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, it does a little bit more on a Friday than another day, but it's mainly dinner trade. So you find yourself idling during the day. You know, you're not as productive as it should be, and the space isn't utilized. Getting to the point now of this dual space, the space isn't utilized as it should. Whether you can have a dual space for us, probably unlikely. However, there are other ways to keep ourselves busy in the day, and that's exactly what we're working on at the moment. So it's maybe not a dual space, but it's we're engaging ourselves in other ways within the industry to keep our days busy and creating revenue and business, and then almost focusing on the restaurants in the evening. If you understand, I don't think that really answers the question. We're not looking at that dual space as a physical space, but as a almost a literal space, or figurative. Where about literal figure? Almost as a literal space. Yeah, our time becomes filling the two areas. I don't know if Sukumzi or Saul want to add to that.
Yeah, listen, I
With
think
us, if I may come in, with us from early February, because we are used to get these tourists, it started becoming quiet. And then with also the laws that the customers can only come and take drinks. So way before March, when we were closed, when things started changing, that people can just come and collect, or they can drink until 6. Our people, as I said, mentally, they don't go to dine, they go to have a drink and they end up staying. So since February, but our people, even if all these years have been operating in the last 19 years, our people, we know we're gonna see them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. During the week, people are studying. During the week, people are focused at work. So we normally see them Saturday, Sunday. It's when they are saying it's their freedom. And if they've got their freedom, our clients are people that stay in the suburbs. But weekend, they've got an excuse. I want to go and wash a car in Soweto. I want to go and see my siblings or parents. Then they will just go see them 2 minutes, but they will spend most of their day at Sakumzi. So our Saturdays, Sundays, it's been quite very busy. It's just with this COVID, it changed everything. Only Saturday, Sunday, I can say I've been working. During the day, it's been tourists. But where are the tourists now? When will they ever come back? So that's when we need to think out of the box to come with a menu that will make a difference. But we need a lot of money now to market the product.
Yeah.
And so, Komzi, what kind of changes are you thinking to introduce for the next step of this?
I've been giving that task to my chefs and my cooks, but they seem not to know where to start. You know, we need serious guidance. And that's when we need a turnaround strategist that, who are you? What is it that you can do? But for us, the team have been having meetings for the last 3 weeks, but they're not fruitful. So for now, I'm still confused.
I think one of the things this virus has made sure of is that we all need to be like incredible multitaskers and proficient at so many different skills. I think that's a huge challenge. Saul, you mentioned when we spoke before about Catsies, and I thought just going back to that question of space and repurposing space and how you would use it. Catsies as a nightclub is obviously, that's a kind of very different proposition to what a restaurant is. How would you rethink that space?
So again, similar to Sukumzi, we've been thinking it through, we've been turning it upside down. We more than likely at this stage, it depends on whether they allow us to have X amount of customers per square meter when we do open. And if that's the case, I'm definitely using it as seated space. In other words, it becomes a bigger front of house for the grill house. I'll almost get to capacity by moving all the lounge furniture out and putting in restaurant furniture. The other thing that we're looking at possibly doing is making it more of a live music sit-down destination where it's almost a supper club, so to speak, socially distanced correctly, no dancing. We'll still have our live music, you'll have dinner there, but it'll just be a lot more sparse. So where we used to get a good couple of hundred people in an evening, we'll probably only get 50 or 60 people seated for dinner, but hopefully it will balance with the food revenue. It's again, it goes back to Laurice. We've done a lot of soul searching. We are who we are. You know, we built a brand and we built a business, and I can't all of a sudden become a bottle store overnight because I'm allowed to sell alcohol to the public. And I can't all of a sudden become a takeaway. Like Dave said, our product doesn't travel well, and we're at the mercy of whoever delivers it and the third party. And when they do open that package and the steak upside down all over the mashed potato, the customer picks up the phone to me, not to Uber Eats, and says that product is not great. So we are who we are, and we need to be positive that we will come back. We really do have to have that in mind, that we will celebrate being the grill house and being Catsies again at some stage. Life is not going to be the same, but I think that we are thick-skinned and we will get back to it. And I've seen it, we've actually seen it happening all over the world. We've got a business in Australia that have been allowed 50 people in, and it's been taxed since they've been allowed that. People want to come back, and they actually do. People want to come back and socialize. We'll just have to be very mindful. We'll be mindful of, you have to be transparent as well. The public needs to feel, our biggest challenge is to get the public to trust in us and our industry again. They need to feel comfortable, and you need to be seen to be doing the right thing so that they can feel comfortable in your space.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Saul, can I just add to that? Laurice, sorry, I just want to add to Saul's comment there. And I think there's definitely, we discussed this on the little pre-run that we had, there's definitely going to be a great run of guests to the restaurants when this all opens up. I think the challenge, of course, is the, are you there? Yeah. The challenge, of course, is keeping that up, people have enough money to come out, and and that's why we're going to have to restructure menus and relook at menus for sure.
I read something recently last weekend. The Financial Times had a whole focus on restaurants, and there seems to be a lot of talk of restaurants have been in need of a great reset. What does that mean to you? Do you think that is a true? Do you think that's true about the restaurant industry, that somewhere it was going off a cliff? Because it seems that a lot of critics are saying that's, this is the opportunity to change everything. Or do you think that's a bit of a easy response to the time?
What were they referring to specifically? I mean, reset.
Yeah, I suppose that restaurants, sort of the practices of restaurants, the way they've sort of become corporatized, that these restaurants have gotten bigger and bigger. They owe a lot more to so many more people. It's not that you just go into work, you feed a few people, you feel good about it, you take a little profit home. It's more and more demanding, the actual kind of job of running these restaurants, as you would know. And the kind of talk has been that needs to be reset. That the demands of running these businesses have become over and above what they ever should have been.
Yeah, myself and Gary, my business partner, had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Towards the end of last year, we just felt that things were running away with us a little bit. All of a sudden, your bottom line is getting eaten into, and the costs just keep rising. We're chatting with Saul and with Sukumzi. All of a sudden, these lease agreements that you sign every year, there's these escalations that keep going up, and eventually, as soon as you start pushing up your prices in a restaurant, there's massive resistance to that, and understandably so. But that lease agreement that you sign, that's not flexible. No one else is flexible. You know what I mean? The product gets more expensive. The lease is getting more expensive, and so yes, 100% for us to rethink the business. And to start maybe differently. Maybe we'll grow back to what we were doing again, but there'll definitely be a change when it comes to how we run our businesses, for sure, 100%.
If I can come in as well.
Go for it.
Saul, do you want to go there? So Kumzi will come back to you. Is that fine?
Just on that note, the restaurant industry was pretty broken. Not so to start with, before this whole thing, we run these, people see, even the busiest restaurants, people see queues of people, they see us filling it up, and they just see ka-ching, 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 money, money, money. They see top line, they don't see bottom line. And when I first started in the industry many years ago, I think we were looking at between 20 and 25% retention, depending on what the concept is. You're very lucky to get between 6 and 8%, or maybe 10 if you're really running a great operation. So the margins are tight, the margins are thin. These are businesses that no matter how big and busy they are, they run close to the wire. They're month-to-month businesses. We cash flow businesses, and coupled with the competition that's just exploded. Every new building in Johannesburg, the landlords just somehow want more restaurants. And so when I opened in Rosebank, I opened at the same time as the Hyatt Hotel, which was 25 years ago. If you had to walk, let's say, from the bottom of Rosebank to the top of Rosebank, you might pass one restaurant to get to mine. Today, I don't think that you can count the amount of restaurants between the different piazzas and that's just in one small node. So the competition's gone huge. The cost, as Dave said, has just escalated beyond what we can charge, and the margins have shrunk. So this is a time for us to really renegotiate and to reset the business.
Yeah.
Right. So Kumzi, do you want to come in now?
Yes, on the rethink one, also what I'm thinking or what comes in my mind is the same as what the gentlemen are saying. It's so true that we've been spoiled. We need to accept that, you know, when things are going well, we forget. It comes back to who moved my cheese. So if we can just apply that yes, things have been going well. So now who moved my cheese? Where we used to make money, things are not the same. We have to rethink. We have to go back. How did you start the business? Anyone can start a business, but to scale it to the next level, it's always challenges. So yes, what worked then, but now it's not working. And as South Africans, we like complaining, even if it's not necessary. And what I've seen now, it's as if it's Sakumzi restaurant alone that is affected, forgetting the whole world is in this trouble. So what do I do? Do I keep on complaining? And it's gonna be worse. So we really need to think out of the box and say, the situation is like this. When I started, this is the business plan. So we need new business plans that will work under these circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question from the audience. Someone asked, living with hindsight, how would you have run your establishments differently pre-COVID-19? So maybe if each person can just give one response to something that they would have, you know, with hindsight would have changed.
Yeah.
I lost your question there. Sorry, I was a bit frozen. So if somebody else goes first, then I'll pick it up, I guess.
Okay, no, that's fine. I can repeat it.
Let me try and answer that one.
Okay, and then Saul will pick it up. Okay.
For example, at Sakumzi, I've been too busy doing so many things. And what I've learned in business, focus on one thing, focus. When I look at creditors and debtors, I pay your macro, I pay all the suppliers every week. So what I should have done before to pay them every 30 days or 60 days, instead of paying them weekly, your Messmart, your suppliers or SAP. But with my tour operators, they normally take 30 days or 60 days to pay me back. And what I've learned while we've been closed in the last 2 months, when I'm looking back, I have survived in spite of me not doing things by the book. Creditors needs to be done properly. Debtors need to be done properly. So somewhere, somehow, I lost a lot of money before this COVID-19, while I thought my business was profitable. So out of this crisis, there's one or two things that I've learned, that you need to know your business from A to Z.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the things that we know has to change, and had we known this, it could have been something that could have been done before. But how do you disintegrate and how do you fall apart within 2 months after being operating like Sakumzi for not saying that anybody's falling apart, but how does everything come to a standstill after 2 months? And essentially we stand to lose everything. The problem is the people that work with us, our families, these people that have built the businesses for us. Essentially, they're the face of the business, and if there was one thing that I could have changed, and if there was some form of fund, or there's some form of way that we could have contributed since the day we opened our doors, and that's our rethink, I think, at the moment, is separate to the business, is that if something like this happens again, how do I make sure that the guys are going to be okay, the guys and girls are going to be okay, and I think that's the only thing. To be honest with you, I don't think there's much else we would have changed. I know it was called UIF, but that didn't happen, and it's not happening. So yeah, I think that if there was one thing that I could have done, maybe that's what we would have definitely done. Yeah.
Okay. Saul, would you like to answer?
I am sorry, I've been for some reason dropping and coming back. I've missed quite a bit of the chunk.
No, that's fine. The question was, living with hindsight, how would you run your establishments differently? What's the one thing you would change? If you could go back to that time, and now that you've had this experience, what would fundamentally change in your business? Is there something?
I think this has proven to be like almost an ultimate leveler for everybody. I think that it shows that nobody is better than anybody else, and I think there'll be a different level of respect both between staff members and between customers and staff, and I think a respect for how vulnerable everybody is and can be at the drop of a hat. So those are some of the things that we'd be looking at. Obviously, I mean, one of our fights that we had with the Minister of Tourism, which happened just after they allowed the places of worship to open to people, we said, how come they can open but restaurants can't? Based on the fact that the DNA, the very DNA of our businesses is around hygiene, sanitation, cleanliness. That's what we've been taught. That's what we've been practicing all along. I think that now is a good time to reinforce that and to almost prioritize that if it can.
Saul's camera is freezing again, unfortunately. I think I'm going to shift to another question from Muchi from the Mount Nelson Hotel. And he's asking, what will be the most feasible and hygienic approach to reopen a restaurant? So what are the steps you have to take to reopen a restaurant if you have been closed after all this time?
Well, essentially, what we did as soon as level 3 came in, we brought a small team in to basically to strip, clean, sanitize, and sort of do whatever we can so that if we get some sort of news of that we can open, that we're ready. Obviously, there's this fumigation that's going on that people will do, and I don't think there's much else other than training and proper training and the proper equipment and also proper product. I don't see that there's a hell of a more. We do this stuff anyway. We should have been doing this stuff anyway, So we just have to be extra careful, and we just have to emphasize training and make sure that these measures are in place. I can't really think of much else going forward,
Saul or Sakumzi, do you want to come in there? Just about hygiene and practices and things that you're going to have to put in place in your restaurants? How feasible these things are?
The protocols have to be put in place and they have to be maintained. There was HACCP's approval, which was almost impossible to achieve. And one of the points that the DG of Tourism said when we were chatting to him was, you can't make it unachievable, and you have to bear in mind that different establishments have different budgets. So where, for argument's sake, you would have to put a marking on the floor to say, this is a socially acceptable place to stand in the kitchen. If you put it with masking tape, that's fine. Or if you go and get these really funky stickers with the feet on it, that's also fine. So long as this principle is being done. And we were working in conjunction with Ecolab to try and set these protocols up. They're pretty much the world leaders in terms of kitchen hygiene and restaurant hygiene. And we were saying possibly they should be setting a level, 3 or 4 different levels of approval. So if you hit level 1, that's fine, you can trade. If you hit level 2, it means you've done this a little bit extra. Level 3, this a bit extra, so to speak. And then leave it up to the customer to decide. Like, they can say, listen, I'm comfortable eating in a level 1 restaurant. Like, well, I'm actually only comfortable eating in a level 3 approved restaurant. But there needs to be some type of protocol put in place going forward. Because I go back to what I said a little while ago. It's all about our customers having to trust in us again. They have to trust in the process of eating out again.
And on that point, I wanted a response from each of you, but how have you managed to maintain customer loyalty over this time? How have you been speaking to your customer base?
I'll jump in quickly there because we've been in touch with a few of our customers. And in fact, I got some amazing responses. I put together another video. I don't think I sent you this video of about 15 or so of my really top regular customers sending messages of hope and motivation to my staff, which we circulated amongst all of our waitering staff and that. They mentioned names, they mentioned the meals that they had, they mentioned that they can't wait, hang in there, they can't wait, looking forward to eating at us again, etc. So that's pretty much the majority. And then we also did what we did, we call the Waiters Relief Fund, where the Grill House is contributing, well, we said 60% of whatever people bought vouchers would go straight to the waiters, but as it happens, it turned out that the full 100% that was donated has been put into the waiters relief fund. And the responses as well have been unbelievable. I mean, people are like, oh, wait, best restaurant. It really has been heartening to hear that.
Yeah.
Also, on that point, before for reopening, I'm a member of Restaurant Collection, so we've been working with FEDASA. They've sent us the pre-opening procedures that we are busy applying. And now and then on our WhatsApp group, we normally share tips to reopen your restaurant. That's what the government is looking forward to when we are open for business. And with communicating with clients, for now, I have not been communicating with them because I am not ready at the moment. Yes, we should be opening by Wednesday this week. If we are able to finalize, to come up with a new menu, to come up who is doing what, it's more of operations that is left now that we are tackling. Should we come right, then we should announce before end of the week that we are opening. But for now, I've been avoiding clients, of which is bad.
David?
Yeah, I think obviously through social media, one of our biggest things for Marble and Saint, and both, when we opened both restaurants, social media was a massive part of our build-up. We showed the building of Marble. We showed all the delays. We showed the drama, and through that we established a hell of a base. And those people are all connected to us via social media. So we talk a lot to, I guess, through social media. And obviously the sale of the book, Mile 8, we sold over 1,000 copies, which also 100% of the proceeds go to the staff. That's close to R500,000. And the people that have bought the book are our guests in our restaurant. Some of them bought 50 books. One guy bought 50 books, and that just shows, as Saul was saying, it just shows that, the guests become part of the restaurant. The relationships that we build, yes, it's the food and the drink and everything else, but it's these relationships that we have with our guests that we talk to them, and our managers are talking to, our waiters are talking to them. Like they know everybody by name, and they know through this fund, and by buying the book, they can then support them. So it's been very special. And as you're signing the books, I sign each and every book, like the names, like it's all our guests, and that was quite beautiful.
If you were advising government now, what would be the thing you would need that you would have some caution about, and what would be the area that you're prepared to kind of go forward with? If you had to put that into someone very powerful's ear, what would you be telling them?
Saul, that's your question. Say that again.
Won't you just repeat the question?
I was saying, if you had to advise government now, what is the one thing you would caution them against, and what's the one thing you would say, go forward with that and feel comfortable with it?
Sure. Again, when we were chatting a while ago on one of the Zoom meetings, I said to the DG, we can't tell you when to open up. We can't actually say that's the date. That's what Dave was saying earlier on as well. That's the uncertainty. We can't budget for it. We can't plan for it. In the same way that my staff are looking up to me and wanting answers, and I just don't have those answers because nobody has, we're looking at the government for answers, and they're scrambling. They're doing an unbelievable job, but they're scrambling nonetheless because nobody has the answers. What I would say, though, is don't set a date, but when you do, when you're allowed to open, don't make silly decisions that are, be completely transparent, be open, and don't make ambiguous decisions. Don't say to us one day, well, you can open for takeaways until 8 o'clock, and then 2 days later say, well, actually the curfew is till 8 o'clock. You need to have last order at 7 o'clock. Think about this as third-party delivery. Don't tell us you think it's safer for third-party delivery when we put every effort into sanitizing our restaurants, and then we hand over the risk to somebody else. I mean, one of my pizza place, customers would come to the window to order pizzas. They were there anyway. They were shopping at Discount or Woolworths, and they would order 2 margaritas. I would say, no problem, but I can't give it to you over the counter. I have to give it to an Uber driver who drives it to your house. That's just counterintuitive, those type of things. And also what Dave mentioned earlier as well, don't say to us a blanket rule of 50 people in the restaurant, when some restaurants will be running a queue with 50 people and others you won't even see somebody. So I think then that would be my advice to government, to engage the restaurant. People like Wendy Albertson, there's also the restaurant collective that's been started with Grace Harding and Tasha from Tasha's and Ocean Basket. Engage with the restaurant and find out, but put out a set of multiple choice questions of do's and don'ts, and let us tell you or help direct you to do the right things and open in the right way.
Right.
For
So
me, what I would say, yes, for me, I would say, I would caution them not to advertise too much and spend money on advertising about UIF and tourism relief. They can just get their staff to come to us and assist us to access the money that they've got for UIF. Let them get their staff to come to us so that they can assist us to get the money if there is a money from a relief fund. And what I would say, they must not look at locals. Now they start only now. We'll pay only locals. We won't pay Zimbabweans or people from Mozambique. People who are working in restaurants, it's foreigners mostly. And we pay them via accounts. They've got bank accounts. The government, what they can do is to look at our bank accounts. Who have we been paying all along? We've been paying A, B, C, D for the last 6 months. So let them pay those people, because those are people that are building our businesses, that are making economy to run. There was nothing in Vilakazi Street. It was dead. There was no economy. No one was giving anyone a cent. When I started my restaurant, I made people to start giving each other money. We give them this product, then we get money. We are able to pay people. People are able to go and buy food at ShopRite Checkers, Pick and Pay. Those big corporate companies should be coming into the party. People are buying Samsung TV. People are buying cars. Big corporate companies must not look at the government only. People who work in restaurants, they've got cars. People who work in restaurants, they've got beds where they sleep. They've got TVs, they've got DSTV. So all those big corporate companies, they need to be forced by government that they need to put something under the relief fund or UIF so that small businesses can be assisted.
David, do you want to add?
No, not really. I just, no, fine.
Okay. Tell me what, I mean, I think we've covered a lot. I can see time is going to run out on us. And I think there are a lot of questions still, a lot of questions about cash flow and questions about landlords. But I think so much of what you've already said really puts people in the picture of the complexity of this issue, that this isn't, when someone's ready, set, go, open, it doesn't work like that. It's not just a restart.
Can I just add one thing? I saw somebody ask a question about product, and again, when you look at our businesses, and a lot of our businesses, Sukumzi, I don't know what your cooking methods are, but if we're cooking on fires and stuff like that, like our meat is a 3-month maturation process. In some cases 3 months, in some cases 45 days. It depends on what meat it is. Now, firstly, we've lost all of that essentially, and secondly, we need to, not knowing when to open. I'm just answering the question on stock levels and so forth. Somebody asked the question, I can't remember who it was, and this is exactly what we were discussing again in our pre-meeting to this, is that, as Saul said in the beginning of this meeting, our industry was in a lot of trouble before we even got to COVID. Things are tough out there, and restaurants were really, really struggling all over the country. But our tough times are still to come. This is difficult, obviously, and we've got to get through this. Then we're going to open our doors. Yes, then I can tell you, then it's going to be difficult for us, and because then all of a sudden everything kicks back in again, and I think that's the challenge that we're facing. You know, it's yeah. Somehow you need to retain a little bit of a nest egg to be able to open, but you're also trying to look after your team, and you're trying to do all these things, and you can't do everything. You know, you can't do everything.
And more,
Also,
I think just
maybe,
carry on.
also, a last one from me, I would say big corporations, universities, MBA students, they need to come to the party and just have a focus. If things are going on like this for the next 4 months, what's gonna happen? Because I'm not paying people for the next 4 months. What is it that they're gonna eat? People will start eating each other. So if there's a way they can assist that while Sakumzi restaurant or any other small business is closed, can we educate our staff in the meantime? Whether it's on customer service or administration or HR, but we cannot just fold arms and hope everything will be fine. We have a beautiful country here, but a revolution will come out of hunger and desperation. The crime is going to be high. We need to work together, big corporations, with whatever they have been able to invest, with whatever they've got for BEE or for small business relief. They need to come to a party, because if we are to look for the next 4 months, people are hungry. What's gonna happen? And there are so many things we can avoid. That's all.
I think it definitely points the way forward to greater collaboration on so many different levels. I think maybe that is one of the things that will shift from this situation. I don't know if anybody wants to make any last closing remarks before we sign out.
Just please support us when we open.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Dave. One of the things I'd like to appeal to customers, not only please to support us, but to support us with patience and with understanding, and knowing that it's going to be a challenge, and that our staff are all going to be a little bit ring rusty, and people are going to be looking for points and issues, and they're going to say, oh, was this frozen, and how come this doesn't say expression? So I would appeal to people to just to join us with patience and understanding, and if you have issues, speak to the right people. Social media is such a dangerous thing. Just speak to the right people.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you to all three of you. Thank you for your frankness. Thank you for the wisdom and the insight. And yeah, thank you. I think this has been incredibly helpful to a lot of people out there, and I think we'll continue the conversation. We like to stick within our hour, so we're going to end off now. If you'd like to follow us on Johannesburg in Your Pocket on all the different social media channels, you can find out more about the next topic we'll be discussing. And have a great afternoon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurice, for inviting me, and thank you, Saul. We follow you. Thank you, David. We know your product as well. I feel honored to be around you guys. Thank you so much.
I'm telling you, when this is all done, we're coming for 2.
Yes, you must come. Just 1, 2. We end up staying long.
Yes,
thank you, David.
Gotcha.
Much respect.
Thanks, guys.